Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Talk Your Abs Off. I'm your host, Abby Clapper, and today I'm so excited because I'm joined by my mom, Dawn Boville, and I'm so excited to share with you her health journey and what she has gone through over the course of my 30 years of life. And I think it's relatable to a lot of people my age, and also a lot of people her age too, because of what she kind of went through and experienced over the course of her life with different diet cultures and things like that. So without further ado, this is my mom, Dawn Boville.
Hello, thank you for asking me to be on your podcast. It's definitely one thing to listen to a podcast and a totally different thing to be on one.
I'm so excited. I think this is like aspirations, and especially because the day this episode comes out, it is Mother's Day, so what better day to have a chat with my mom about her journey. So Mom, I want to talk a little bit about first when I was growing up, what I saw when I was younger was you were doing a lot of different diet programs. So I saw Weight Watchers. I saw there was one through our church called First Place. Can you tell me a little bit about your time in that diet culture, and maybe even a little bit before, what kind of led you to where you are during my childhood?
Sure. After I was pregnant and gave birth to you, it became difficult for me to actually lose weight, and I didn't spend a lot of time. It wasn't forefront in my mind. But after a couple of years, I decided that something needed to change, and my mom, your grandma, had success on Weight Watchers. So I knew the program, and I knew that I wanted to do something that was not like, let's eat grapefruit every day, or just limit. It was so limiting to drop the weight. I knew that I wanted to do something that was overall included a lot of food groups, I didn't have to not eat certain things. And so I was able to use that program, got down to my goal weight, and wow, that was it. I felt I looked great. And then I just, after a while, stopped going and abandoned it, and the weight started coming back on. And so then I have a very good friend who was leading this other weight loss group through our church, and that was also very good as far as the food groups, and it involved a lot of paying attention to your emotional health, your relational health, and your spiritual health. So those were the two formal programs that I participated in.
Yeah, I remember both of those pretty well. It's a lot of tracking and doing your homework, and honestly, I think a lot of millennials probably saw their parents go through Weight Watchers, do the Atkins diets. I know, talking to one of my previous guests, Savannah, had seen her parents go through that, and I think it's something that's not uncommon for, I'm going to say like the boomer generation. I don't remember what that generation is called besides boomers, but millennials' parents, that's, I think, something very common. And so we as people my age saw our parents going through this diet culture, which, like you said, it led to you reaching your goal weight. However, when you stopped, that weight came back. So it wasn't a consistent thing. And, there's no shame in that, because people can do different programs and see results. However, I think where a lot of these programs, a lot of these different diets, obviously, where they fall short is the consistency afterwards. Now, whether it's the person choosing not to do it, or it's the program just doesn't have the right follow-up, and it's only focusing on food, which to an extent can also create a negative experience with food. Did you experience maybe negative emotions or things around food because of these programs that you tried?
Yes, I feel like I did. I felt I needed to deny myself certain things, even though maybe the program didn't require that, but I was still thinking it. Good food, bad food. And I know with Weight Watchers, they were using a points system, and you use your points for different ways throughout the day, which would make eating anything possible, but you just had to watch your points. I guess the problem I learned later with that in the other weight loss program was, why call them points? Call them calories, call them what they are. Speak the truth about what you are putting in your mouth. It's calories, and know the truth about what you're actually eating, which is I think, very important aspect of the weight loss journey when you're on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree to that. I mean, when I do my 12-week Jumpstart program with my clients, unless someone has a past history of disordered eating, I won't have them track their food. But otherwise, I do have people track their food because the awareness around what you're eating is really important. If we go through our day just eating whatever we want and not tracking, we might be 2,000 calories over where we need to be, right? So I'm definitely not knocking Weight Watchers. I think that the tracking of food and the awareness around food is really important. But what I think kind of lacks with it is the accountability afterwards to continue. I mean, you can probably stay on Weight Watchers as long as you want, but a lot of people will think, oh, I'm fine, I lost the weight, I can stop now, and then all the weight comes back, and then you kind of bounce back and forth. And similarly, if you stop tracking your food, unless you eat the similar types of foods every day, which I do because I'm a creature of habit, I love routine, I like to eat the same types of things because I know exactly what's in it, I know how much protein I'm getting, and I know how many calories are in everything at this point of what I usually eat day to day. But, if you start to not track, and sometimes you don't have to track every day, if you track 3 times a week just to kind of see where your food is at, then you can at least have a general idea of what you're eating. And obviously we can still go out to eat and have these, fun food days. We don't want to deprive ourselves of everything all of the time, which I think is an important piece of it too. Okay, so I didn't tell you about this yet because I wanted to talk about it here and get your full reaction for it. I don't know if you saw, but Weight Watchers filed for bankruptcy. Did you see that?
I did not see that.
So Weight Watchers filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. I'm just here for the tea, okay? It would be my mom chat. Like, it's always about the gossip, so I had to get some gossip in here too. I thought other people would find this interesting. I have clients who've used Weight Watchers, and again, this is nothing against Weight Watchers. People have used it, loved it, still use it, whatever. But I just wanted to talk about the gossip with you because whenever we chat, we get to talk about the tea. So I want to talk about it because, so Chapter 11 bankruptcy, basically they're not like going under, they're reorganizing their debt, right? So this is not necessarily fitness related, but I'm here to talk about the tea. So what they did was they're doing like a debt for equity swap because they have $1.6 billion of debt right now because whatever the current process that they were using is no longer feasible, is no longer what the people want, which I'll get to in a second. So anyways, they have this $1.6 billion of debt from God knows what. And so they're doing a debt for equity swap, basically offering equity in the company for lenders, for these people who are going to pay off some of this debt. So, but what the more interesting thing is as they restructure the company, because it's still going to be Weight Watchers, the normal company, as they restructure, it's going to be focusing more on telehealth and GLP-1s, or as most people might know it as Ozempic is like the household name for it, but GLP-1 semaglutides. So I wanted to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, that is shocking information because being on Weight Watchers, you have to pay each week. And that's how your grandma started on Weight Watchers. This program has been around a long time. So I'm very surprised by this information, but of course I haven't been in that structure for 20 years or whatever, so I don't know all the changes that they make or what they're using their money for. I'm shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And also the fact that I think there's other weight loss programs that are getting on the weight loss prescription med bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess there's a place for that. It's not something that I needed to try.
Mm-hmm. Well, interestingly enough, the company that I worked for and that Mom did the program for actually also is offering the GLP-1s or like the Ozempic type things, which was part of the reason initially when they said, oh, we're going to start offering, these GLP-1s, that was at the time when I didn't know so much about it and I was like, oh, they're turning into big pharma. I would like to not be a part of this, as part of the reason why I left. But knowing more about GLP-1s now that I do, as long as I feel that as long as people with diabetes who need it have enough of a supply, which I know is different than what the actual, GLP-1 semaglutides are, but as long as the people with diabetes have what they need, it can be okay for a certain population. I'm actually doing an episode in the future that's going to touch on that way more. So we'll talk about that in more detail with someone who knows more about it than I do. But anyways, I just wanted to chat about that because I thought it was very fascinating, and I think that they're going more in the direction of like they said, telehealth, so maybe more of like the health coaching, which I think is really interesting because it's proving to be really helpful to have that accountability person, right? And so that's what I aim to do with my clients. It's definitely more personal because once you start to do that in corporate, it can get very overwhelming. They give you too many clients and not enough time or resources in order to meet all of these clients' needs. So that's why I enjoy having a handful of clients and being able to coach them one-on-one and do that. So anyways, that's the tea on that, Mom.
Okay, thank you.
I'm glad we could talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, something that I wanted to bring up. So if you've listened to episode 11, which is 3 lessons I learned coaching for a top weight loss app, which will remain nameless, my mom participated in this weight loss coaching app while I was working there. So Mom, I want to know, how did that coaching app make a difference in your weight loss journey experience compared to the previous programs in the past?
Wow, it really helped me see how important sustainability is. It was keeping me accountable in ways that I hadn't been before. The app provided the logging of the food on an app which honestly was not available back 25 years ago. So logging food for me was always a very laborious task in finding out everything. But the logging app that they offered was really, really helpful and really eliminated a lot of angst about having to put this stuff down, because you're tapping and typing and picking things instead of having to write everything down and measure so much. It also provided scientific information that was important to know, and it also provided psychological information, asking the right questions of their clients and going a little deeper into the whys you're doing what you're doing. That was a couple of areas that I found to be fascinating, that there's really good reasons, scientific and psychological reasons, why we choose to do what we do. And the program felt a lot more personal. That's how it came across to me.
Yeah, and I think honestly that's why I wanted to work for that company, is because I thought that it had a lot more meat to it. I really enjoyed the psychological piece. It was true health coaching. It was coaching people through the difficult things, through, why do you think that, when you're stressed, you're reaching for these sugary foods? What can you do instead? It was things like that I really loved about that company, and I'm so glad that you got to experience and that you were able to make it more personal. And oh gosh, when did I work there? I worked there in 2020. It was during COVID. So I worked there in 2020. So you've been using it for 5 years.
Yes, I sure have. And I was able to lose a decent amount of weight, noticeable, amount of weight to me, and sustain that, keep it off, which is the longest that I've been able to do that in any weight loss program, that I was a part of. Still use some elements of that today. Don't have to do everything because I've been able to, it's become a part of my daily routine now. So it has been a while, and I guess it's just the sustainability of it now that's what changed my mind about the whole program.
Absolutely, and I think it really sheds light on intuitive eating because that's kind of what this program really focused on was more intuitive eating, listening to your body, creating these experiences that you know are addressing your emotions before you are eating your foods, things like that. Are you comfortable sharing how much weight you lost?
Sure, I lost 25 pounds, which shows up was showing up every year at my yearly physicals, and there was clothes that I was buying that it got in my head, and I was hiding things. And after I lost that 25 pounds, I found a little more freedom in different things that I felt I can wear, things that I can do that I wasn't able to do as well before.
Yeah, I want to hear more about your non-scale victories. So that's something that I love about my clients is scale victories are really great. The number on the scale can be really beneficial, rewarding. Like mom said, her doctor was, happier with the number on the scale. But when we talk about BMI, and this should be a whole nother episode, BMI is not 100% is what we should be gauging our health and wellness off of. However, sometimes losing like a little bit of weight can be helpful for a lot of our other numbers, but non-scale victories can be just as important. So wearing different, your clothes fitting differently. What other non-scale victories did you see?
I had been having some hip pain in one of my hips, and it would kind of flare up more like at night when I was sleeping, and I would kind of feel that. And dropping 25 pounds, I have not been bothered by that pain at all since I lost some of that amount of weight. And also, I was able to feel better about going into my yearly physicals, knowing that these numbers were going to be a little bit better. There are other health issues that I have, but losing the weight is not part of the problem now. And also, just realizing and embracing this whole thing as a journey instead of just something, a task to complete, a box to check, and now I'm done. That's a victory in my head, that this is an ongoing thing, and I need to stay on top of it. It's good to be the best that I can be for my family and for myself as I age, and not forgetting and not just abandoning everything and just doing what I want. I want to be healthy. I want to treat the body I have with respect and put good things in, and not default to some of those bad habits and bad eating habits that I would do when my emotions were getting the best of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've seen your relationship with food change, since I was younger to now.
Mm.
You have such a much better relationship with food. You are not afraid to, if someone is having a party, to indulge in the fun foods, and and you just know, because this program, which is a little bit of like a double-edged sword. This program, it has you weigh yourself every day. I don't believe you weigh yourself every day anymore, do you?
I do.
Oh, she still does. Okay, you still do. So this program has you weigh yourself every day, which is good for some people, not good for others. But what it helps you to see is the day-to-day small changes that different foods can make, right? So you'll know, if you've been on this program for a while, that if you indulge in foods at a party, the next day the scale might go up a pound or two. But that's okay, because if you continue to eat well the next couple of days, that weight's going to come right back down. And so you have a better understanding of what you're eating and how the scale changes from day to day. I talk about this on my social media. Our weight can change 1 to 3 pounds, probably even more, even just during the day, depending on how much water you're drinking, depending on how much salt you eat, if you're inflamed, if you've worked out, all these different things. So it kind of plays a part to it. So anyways, all that to say is that your relationship with food has changed, which I think is amazing, and seeing you grow through that through the past 30 years has been incredible. But now you have added another piece to the puzzle, which I'm so proud, and I mean, it did kind of come from me, but you have started strength training, and I want to hear about your experience with lifting some weights.
Well, it was very challenging at first, and I was making a lot of jokes about it, thinking I could just choke the whole thing off. But you stuck with me, and made sure that we took pictures of all the equipment that we had at home that we could use to, to get started, and I still do it at home. So using what we have at home instead of having to get a gym membership or buy equipment, that's what I really appreciate about your approach with me is, hey, what do you have at home? What can you do at home? Because I just prefer to do it that way. So I would have to say there's been many benefits already of strength training, and it is not something that I ever did. It was not something I did when I did athletics when I was in school. I never really had a gym membership for any reason. I thought it was not necessary. I've since changed my mind. Thanks to you, you have been able to talk me through, and the benefits of that, especially at the age I'm at. And I have noticed my balance has improved in ways that really only I would notice. And also better awareness of my posture and how I do things because of the program that you have designed for me has a lot to do. You include videos so that I'm not hurting myself. So I'm doing it the right way so that I'm getting stronger in a way that won't hurt, down the road or do it incorrectly. And also, I have a very sedentary job, and before I started weight training, I was having some sciatica issues on one side of my body, and the weight training and the stretching that you have taught me and shared with me have pretty much eliminated the sciatica issue. But when it does flare up a little bit, I can just go back and do what you told me, and I'm back in business. And so that really helps a lot as well. And also I feel challenged and feeling of accomplishment when I finish my 30-minute weight training workouts, or if after a few months you're, adding reps or adding weight or whatever, I feel like, oh, I can do this. So it gives me a level of confidence that maybe I didn't have for a long time.
That's amazing. I love that, and I know that as you get older, one of the things. So for those of you who don't know, I also teach classes here locally. Mom is from Wisconsin. I live in Florida, but we're here on YouTube. If you want to see us together, you can peek on YouTube. And I turned my living room into a little studio while she's here. So, anyways, but down here in Florida, I do teach classes, and the majority of the people who come to my classes are older adults who are often retired. There are some who are still working, but mostly retired. And the biggest thing that I've been able to teach a lot of people who are older is that, just because you're older doesn't mean that you still can't be strong. I'm so proud of you for taking on that challenge. And you also have a really cool story that, it might seem small, but, you did tell me this story, and I was so proud of you because, I don't know if you would have been able to do this in the past, but, you are older, but you were still able to help someone else. And anyways, I want you to share this story because I thought it was so cool when I heard it. So I need you to tell everybody.
Okay. Last fall, I was at a big box store, and I had just checked out. I was walking out of the store, and near the exit were these big boxes. You've all seen them, big boxes of pumpkins. And they're huge, and they were a great price. And there was this lady, an old lady, I'm guessing older than me, was standing by her cart, and she already had a couple of pumpkins in her cart because only a couple of pumpkins would fit. That's how big these pumpkins are. And we made eye contact as I was heading out, and she kind of stopped me and she said, "Could you help me?" And I said, "Well, sure." She said, "Well, I don't have all the pumpkins I want, but I spotted one in this bin here that I would like, and I was wondering if you could help me." I said, "Okay." She said, "It's that one down there in the corner." And I looked down in, and the boxes are as high as under my armpits. That's how tall the boxes are. And I looked down in, and I thought, oh, okay. I said, "Do you mind holding my bag?" She held my bag, and I bent down, grabbed it by the stem and yanked it out and gently placed it in her cart. And she thanked me, and I felt so great about that because these things are not the small pumpkins. These are the bigger than your head pumpkins. And I was able to help her and felt good. I'm walking out of the store thinking, oh, wow, all right. I just lifted it like a boss. And like, so yeah, that was really kind of a cool moment for me because I had to reach down in there and grab that thing and pull it out in one pull. Otherwise it was, it was going to be pumpkin pie at the bottom.
And I'm so proud because like if that box, you know, comes up to under your armpits and you're reaching down, for a lot of people, they might have thrown out their backs. You might bulge a disc. There's a lot of things that you can do. But at that point, I believe you've been weightlifting for at least 6 months because you've been doing it for about a year now. And so, you know, you had the strength and you had the right form and the right posture to be able to pull this huge pumpkin out from the bottom because the fact this lady wanted a pumpkin from like the absolute bottom of the box like drives me absolutely nuts. But anyways, you know, these ladies, they want what they want. So anyways, I'm just really glad that I thought, for me, I was so proud I could have almost cried when you told me that story because it was such like an accomplishment. It's just such another non-scale victory, such a big win that, you know, at the age that you are and, you know, that you've been doing this weightlifting, that you've been able to, you know, accomplish these really cool things. And well, Mom, you also, before you even started strength training, you did a lot of walking too. So the walking aspect, making sure that you're doing your cardio, you know, you're still doing these other really healthy things as well, and just kind of adding different pieces to it. Something that Mom and I actually just talked about today before we started recording this was focusing more on protein. You know, the food logging that she does now focuses a lot on fruits and vegetables, which is awesome because you can eat fruit and vegetables till you're, you know, blue in the face, which is really hard to do because fruits and vegetables, you gotta eat a lot of it in order to be really full. So, and now maybe realizing that, you know, you aren't as full and that maybe adding in more protein would be beneficial, which is something that I talk to my clients about and that we'll obviously talk more about. And by eating that protein, you'll be able to, you know, better sustain the muscle that you're building through the strength training, and you'll be fuller longer and you'll feel better satiety and all those things. So on top of my mom grabbing this large pumpkin for this lady in the big box store, right? Mom also had one other incident happen that, thankfully now, Mom, you tell me about your injuries and things that happen because I'm 1,000 miles away. And I used to just hear from them willy-nilly, like, oh, did you know that 6 months ago I fell? Like, Mom, you have to tell me these things because what if I have to do something about them? So my mom did tell me. This happened on New Year's Day in January. I want you to tell me about what happened, and then we'll debrief.
It was actually a rather cold day on New Year's in Wisconsin, New Year's Day, and I thought it would be a great idea if my husband and I went for a walk at the state park not far from our home and just start the year off right by being outside. And we were bundled up and we thought we were good shoes on. There was still snow on the ground, but by that time it had been cold enough and the snow had turned a little packy and icy. And we got on one of the trails and started walking and got about a half a mile in, and it was right near Lake Winnebago where we live, and we started going down a little incline, and I started going a little too fast, didn't want to slip and fall, so I went down and was able to stop myself on a tree that was right next to the trail, but right before the cliff that heads down to the lake. And I said to my husband, I think we better turn around. I don't think I'm going to make it any farther than this because it's too slippery. Just as I said that, I turned around and slipped on the trail, and one of my knees just landed full weight right on a rock. And I tell you what, it was painful. It was cold and it was painful. I did not need to be carried out. Fortunately, I was afraid. The way it felt, I was afraid that it was bad. But I was able to get out, limp out, and make it, and got home, put ice on it, all that. But I think I attribute a lot of the ability to recover from that fall was the strength training that I had been doing, boy, for quite a few months already that helped me not have a more serious injury.
Yeah, when you told me that, I was number one just scared and sad because I know that it was very painful and incredible. But I was so happy that nothing broke. You didn't pull any muscles. I mean, I know you had some pretty serious bruising for a while. You still have a little bit of a scar. If anybody's on YouTube, I don't know, look at my mom's knee. Can you see her scar? She's gonna show it off. Okay,
Yeah, there it is, right there.
So she still has a gnarly scar to show off from her fall at the national park. But yeah, I think that and it's again with older people and having more frequent falls. Not that you're having more frequent falls, but you did fall. But being able to recover, number one, and number two, not having more severe injuries because of making sure that your muscles are strong, they're supporting the joints well. And I don't want to attribute 100% of it to weight training because some of it could just be dumb luck too, that you just got really lucky. However, I don't want to discount the work that you did that could have protected your joints from more serious injury. So thank you for sharing that story. I hope that it maybe, if there's anyone who's also older listening, if that maybe encourages you to start some weightlifting, even if it's just body weight stuff, just to support your joints. Your joints need it as you get older. You want to prevent falls, and you want to make sure that your body can recover if you do fall. So the end of my show, how I always end it, is with a segment called Absolution, which is basically talking about something in the health and fitness industry that can be toxic, something that we want to absolve people of, so that they don't feel guilty, so that they don't feel that the fitness industry is as toxic. So I'm curious to hear what you would say that we should absolve ourselves of the guilt of.
Okay, and I guess I'll use my experience in a couple of different weight loss programs as examples. I just was feeling the pressure of doing everything correctly every day. And if somebody would check my food logs and look and say, well, you could have done this differently, you could have done that differently. And I get the fact that accountability is good and it's to be helpful to me, but just to realize it doesn't have to be done perfectly every day. And you can still enjoy some things you used to enjoy and like them and appreciate them. But just knowing that you need to get back on it as soon as possible, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And that also I ran into the goal weight syndrome. The goal weight meaning the finality. I've arrived. Okay, I'm good now. When I clearly was not. I had not grasped the sustainability. I understood the maintenance part of these programs. That's, I guess, would be another word for sustainability. But just knowing that goal weight is something to keep in the back of your mind, but have something else besides a number in your head. Have some other life goals for yourself, like mine are being in good condition for myself and my family, so that I can enjoy these last years that I have, and do things for others and do things for my family. So just letting go of oh my gosh, I didn't eat, that was bad for me, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that. I would say, let that go, give yourself some grace.
Thank you so much for sharing your absolution, what we should absolve ourselves of the guilt of. I think that those are fantastic. Everybody's is different, and I think the more that we can have these discussions around what is potentially toxic in the fitness industry, is we can try to break them down and get rid of them and make the fitness industry a more inclusive, wholesome place where people don't feel bad about themselves and feel guilty and feel empowered and like they can, do anything that they want to do. We are going to wrap up there. Thank you so much, Mom, again, for joining me on my podcast. I never thought this day would come, but here we are. And I love that that I'll get to look back and listen to this story, and that I get to share it with other people who might not know the journey that you've been on, and who might want to talk to you about it now if you share it with your friends or anything like that. So I want to thank you so much for how you've supported me through all of this, and with my business, and all of the encouragement, and by participating in my programs, and just all of the encouragement that you have given me.
You're welcome, and thank you for asking me to be on your podcast. It has been incredible to watch all the steps that you've taken, even before you had your own business, just making the most of the education that you have, and watching you grow, and how you care for your clients, and just all the success that you've been having. It's been a real blessing to watch.
Aw, well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on this Mother's Day episode. And if you're a mother to kids or to fur babies, I have fur babies, happy Mother's Day. Everyone deserves it. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Talk Your Abs Off. I will see you on June 1st.